Hello?
Is that Frank?
Yes.
Hi, Frank. This is Jimmy Hoffa.
Martin Scorsese hasn't made a gangster film proper since his only Best Picture winner, The Departed in 2006, and his career since has been wonderfully experimental and introspective. As The Irishman settles into its first act after a few clunky opening scenes, you can feel the director employing the old Goodfellas and Casino tropes all over again, but with a good deal more perspective. This is an incredibly thoughtful gangster movie.
What else you say? Now's not the time to not say.
The Irishman is a gangster flick wary of its own identity, transforming the violence of a classic Scorsese movie into a sad, tragic retrospective on human morality. The Irishman's script from the legendary Steven Zaillian spans decades. We follow the real-life mob hitman Frank the Irishman Sheeran from the 1950s to the early 2000s, with the plot largely depicting his time working first for Pennsylvania mob boss Russell Bufalino and eventually notorious American labor union leader Jimmy Hoffa. With the story sometimes jumping years from scene to scene, relationships between the three ebb and flow largely without much internal conflict for the first two acts. Frank is merely their muscle, and the script is much more focused on developing the relationships he shares with his two bosses, as well as his deteriorating relationship with his family.
It was like the army. You followed orders. You did the right thing. You got rewarded.
Naturally, a lot of the work comes down to the actors. But Scorsese has an ambitious trick up his sleeve. The much-reported digital de-aging of De Niro, Pesci, and Pacino takes a few scenes to get used to, but it's never as distracting as it has been in any of the Marvel films or the over-animated reconstruction of Peter Cushing in Rogue One. Here, it's merely a matter of acknowledging that it, for the most part, looks fantastic, and then letting the story and the performances wash over you.
I don't care whether you did it or not.
Yeah, I know.
I'm here to defend you, right?
Right. What do you want to know? You want to know if I did it or not?
And this cast is the stuff of legend. As Frank, De Niro is largely our abiding lead, not unlike Ray Liotta's charismatic turn in Goodfellas. But in the first hour, it's Pesci who controls the flow of the film, with a searing yet quiet terror built into his mostly motionless face.
I got that kid I was talking to you about here. I'm gonna put him on the phone and let you talk to him, okay?
But once Jimmy Hoffa gets his introduction, Pesci hands control over to Pacino for a time. In his first collaboration with Scorsese, the Scarface and Godfather star simply does what he does best. He's incendiary in some moments, screaming at the top of his lungs in the way only Pacino can, and capable of incredible human depth in others.
Always charge a guy with a gun. With a knife, you run away. So you charge with a gun, with a knife, you run.
The third act sees Pesci and Pacino vying for control in some of the most electric scenes Scorsese has directed in a long while. But before the end, The Irishman necessarily becomes De Niro's film. And right when he needs to, he opens Frank's heart to us just a crack and knocks it out of the park.
It's gonna happen. Either way, he's going.
It's important to note that Scorsese and Zaillian have no difficulty making the film a joy to watch. At 3.5 hours, there are naturally some pacing problems, but this epic is never boring. The genre's sense of humor, designed by Scorsese in the first place, still rings true, and the story whizzes by for the most part, even if a couple of transitions between eras could have been realized with a little more zest and clarity. The film really only comes together in the sublime final 30 minutes. It's when the story is seemingly over that it becomes a challenging reckoning of the soul, asking us to ruminate on the question of why. Why did any of this have to happen? What was it all for? The great tragedy, Scorsese seems to be saying, is that most of us find out too late. Martin Scorsese's revisionist take on the gangster genre he helped define is a story of epic proportions that benefits from subtly brilliant special effects and 3 knockout performances from Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. The master filmmaker has made an introspective, thoughtful, even somber film that manages to be just as entertaining as his classics, even while diving deep into the darkest souls and finding some semblance of a heart. For more movie reviews, check out what we thought of Joker and Knives Out. And as always, be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you like to watch IGN.